Hey, this is Brendan from Comic Con. We got a special guest with us today, Mr. Scott Duvall. Scott is working on a new Zoop that goes up. It's called Going Green, and he's working on that with Vincenzo Federici and Sean Relaford and Michelle Monti and Taylor Esposito. Um, I want to tell the story real quick of how we met because I think this is funny. A few years ago, we were at New York Comic Con, and we've got a mutual friend, Melissa, who does great work in comics, Melissa Mazzaros. And I went to a party and I'm sitting there talking to this guy, and somehow it came around to Bubba Hotep. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is a great comic that I reviewed that's Army of Darkness, Bubba Hotep. And I was talking about this comic stuff. And here's Scott sitting next to me, and he looks over and he goes, I wrote that. And I was like, no. And so this whole time I'm sitting there going off on this comic, and the dude who wrote it's right there. And I was like, yeah. So I pulled it up on my phone and I was like, here's my review. He's like, I read that. So we had read each other's, I had read the book, he had read my reviews of the book. And it was just this funny moment where neither one of us knew who we were talking to. And all of a sudden it was just like light bulbs. But hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm good, Brendan. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, Going Green, it's a little bit of a different kind of thing. We've got some zombie elements going on, a little bit of Pet Cemetery in there, some hoodoo, some voodoo. Tell us what the book is about, sir.
Sure. I've been kind of selling it as it's like a death positive take on just what happens to people after they pass, and I'm kind of looking at it as both like a sci-fi horror, but also trying to get family drama in there as well, like in the style of Lock and Key. Just this family who's gone through a tragic event, and now they have these supernatural elements that are also on top of everything that they're experiencing. And so I just loved this idea. As soon as we kind of landed on it, I wanted to explore this for a long time. We've been developing it for years, but yeah, it all kind of spawned from me reading this article about human composting being legalized in the state of Washington. And that literally planted the seed for this idea. I thought, like, that's a really interesting concept. Like, I wonder what you could do with that. I wonder what would happen if somebody actually grew as a plant out of their composted remains. And that's literally just, what just spurred the idea. I took it to Vincenzo, who, as you mentioned, I'd been working with on Army of Darkness, Bubba Hotep. And we just had this great creative spark immediately, this energy between us where we were trying to one up or just basically up the ante, like get each other to bring the best out of each other's writing and art. And so we knew immediately from that partnership that we didn't want it to end there. We wanted to move on to another project, something that we owned. And so I always had him in mind for this project from the beginning. And once I sent it over to my co-writer, Sean, he latched onto it as well. He got his gears going, and he sent me back some ideas for it. And then we officially brought him in and made him a part of the team. And then and our team was born for Going Green.
Fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. The description says Going Green is a supernatural family drama of Lock and Key meets the biological horror of annihilation in a modern Monster Day comic with heart. I read the first 10 pages, and I got to say, it hits all of that. So you guys, you had a vision, you went out, you saw the vision through. Um, let's talk a little bit about, the differences between the art on this versus the art on like Bubba Hotep, Army of Darkness. Because in that one, you have to do a lot of mimicry, right? You have to like capture the look and the feel of the films or the books or whatever source material you're looking for. But this is completely original, whatever. And you guys went in a different direction with it. Talk about the art a little bit.
That's right. Yeah. Working on a licensed property, you definitely have to keep it in the style of those properties and make it feel true to the franchises. And so hopefully we did a good job doing that and I will say that the licensors did give us a pretty long leash as far as like just pretty much carte blanche. It was almost like writing fan fiction, and hopefully it came across that way because it's the funnest project I think we've both ever worked on. But this is something where, yeah, it's completely original, comes from us. It's really fun working with Vincenzo because he's just a creative force. He not only is really adept at action, but also bringing pathos. He loves drawing monsters and horror. So I really wanted to lean into that and play to his strengths as much as possible with this project. And hopefully people dig what we're laying down. I love the designs he's coming up with. Yeah, he's just the perfect partner for this project.
I'm looking at some of the concept art and seeing how the character is starting to grow out of the pot and things, but seeing that it also retains some of the look and the feel of the original character, because that's a big part that happens, right? Because initially these plant zombies, they can't talk, but from some of the solicits, it looks like they may be able to talk down the line or whatever. But just being able to know that this head growing out of this pot is dad, it's not just some random head. That's a whole different level of familiarity that has to come across.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about this the other day. My co-writer Sean's a big Star Trek guy, and it's just this like idea of when you are teleported, when you phase to another place. Is it really you, or is it just a copy of a copy? Is it the original version of you destroyed, but people still treat him as if he's Captain Kirk? It's just like, oh, it's you. You're just over here now. You've been transported, and so it's this idea of that these are their souls are still intact. It is them. It is a version of them. It's just not them in the flesh. And so we wanted to play around with sort of the zombie tropes of just like undead, but not do it in the typical like flesh eating way. Do it in a way where, people's family members are coming back and they aren't fully formed. And there's a lot of questions brewing in this town that's sort of concentrated in, and people looking for answers. But at the same time, they don't want to expose it too much because they don't want their family members then taken away and being tested on, because they know that's the inevitable next step if they do put that out there, is that someone's going to want to study their family members. And so they're trying to basically almost develop a new relationship with their family member. And as you mentioned before, that they don't necessarily have the ability to speak at first. They don't have tongues, they're still evolving. And it's very symbolic of the father in this family, Tim, who passes on, not really being able to communicate very well with his son in life while he was still around and able to do so. And so now they're trying to, that there was a rift between them before he passed. There's this bond that needs repairing. And so now it's a second chance for his son Cliff to have that resolution, to resolve his feelings with his father. But once again, they're not able to communicate. So it's kind of trying to find a way to do that without speaking to each other at first.
Wow, that's really deep too, because I don't know how many times you've heard the trope of like, if they were still alive, if I had 15 more minutes with them, if I had 10 more minutes with them, and like,
That's right.
here is this example, but like one of the key things is taken away. And I just read Ink Master with my youngest, he's 8, and that's one of the things that happens is the mom gets drawn out of a book and she can't talk, so the whole time she's trying to communicate with physical touch and with notes and things like that. So with this plant zombie, whatever you're calling the creatures, it sounds like there's a similar kind of dynamic where he wants to communicate so badly because he screwed up in life. Wow, that's a level that I didn't even know from the preview images that you sent and stuff like that. So that makes me want to read it even more.
Awesome. Yeah. What the other piece of that as well is that the youngest, Molly, she's on the autistic spectrum. And so sometimes people on the spectrum are nonverbal and they can't really communicate the way we can. And so she can speak, but she sort of has this unspoken bond with her plant daddy where she is able to communicate with him in a nonverbal way. So it's almost like that becomes a strength of hers where she can almost interpret what he's saying to the older brother, because she has this way of communicating without verbalizing it.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about some of the backer rewards for your Zoop campaign, and some of them are really, really cool. A lot of them have to do with the book, but there's some other stuff that goes kind of outside, that is just generally rated to comics. And I think one of them is really, really cool. But why don't you tell us what some of the backer tiers, what people can expect if they go to back this book on Zoop?
Absolutely. In addition to the graphic novel itself, because it's going to be a full graphic novel, not just the first issue, we're having additional add-ons. Vincenzo, our fantastic Rising Star artist on TMNT, he'll draw you a commission of anything you want. You can even be drawn into the book. You can cameo in it as a background actor, as someone who has a line. You can even get killed in the book if you wish, or get turned into a plant-human hybrid. So those are some of the fun add-ons that we included in there. In addition to prints and stickers and the usual stuff. But one thing that I wanted to do to make this campaign stick out a little bit more, hopefully, is that I am putting up some of my own collectible signed comics that have some meaning to me, but that I'm willing to part with in the service of making this comic a reality. So there's going to be some signed items in there by some names you might recognize, such as Stan Lee, Bob Kane.
Never heard of them. Who's that lead fella?
Neil Adams. Who else? Matt Wagner. Bruce Timm. And George Takei. So there's a few comics in there. I'm hoping to help us raise the funds by selling those off.
That's cool. That's cool. George Takei is a fun one also. I think one of my favorite backer rewards is the getting drawn into a comic because I did a Houdini comic. I'm a butler at Tesla's. Was it Tesla? I think it's Tesla. Tesla versus Houdini is kind of the theme of the comic. But I'm like a
Nice.
butler in Tesla's house. Is it Tesla? No, it's Edison. It's Edison because Edison was the jerk, right? Tesla was
That's
supposedly
right.
not. Yeah. So I think it's really cool when you can see yourself in a comic and like when you see your name on the backer page and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm actually when this goes live, I'm going to go on there and check and see how much it costs to get killed because that'd be fun.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you.
Right on. Okay, cool. So the Zoop, let's see, it goes live on the 7th, right?
On the 7th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
and then it's going to run for 30 days.
for 30 days exactly.
Do you have any what is it, the 24 hours, the first early bird specials going on, or is it just a straight?
Yeah, we're gonna have actually for the first 48 hours early bird specials. So we'll be offering the graphic novel just at a slightly discounted price for those people who want to help us get the campaign started with a bang. So yeah, hopefully that will attract some early birds.
Fantastic. All right. So this has been Scott Duvall. The Zoop campaign is for Going Green. He's working with an all-star cast of Sean Relaford, Michelle Monte, Taylor Esposito. Taylor corrected me on his last name because I was saying Esposito, like the bad guy from Breaking Bad. But we were this year at New York Comic Con. I was like, oh, it's Taylor Esposito. He's like, no, Esposito. I was like, oh, dang. But yeah, so Taylor Esposito is doing the letters, and Vincenzo is how I've been saying that. But you're saying Vincenzo, so I've been saying that wrong too. So Vincenzo Federici.
You know what? You might be right. Maybe my Italian accent isn't coming through properly, but yeah, I think Vincenzo is probably more accurate.
Okay, so
If I was in
Vincenzo is doing the
yeah.
artwork, and he also worked on the other book too. But it's going live on the 7th. It's going to run for 30 days. There's some early bird specials for the first 48 hours. Thank you very much for your time today, Scott. Looking forward to the book.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.